My name is Jixi, a true Cantonese. Since I was a child, I have lived in a family with a deep-rooted concept of favoring boys over girls. My father always hoped to have a son, but fate made me and my sister the only two daughters in the family. This became my father's lifelong knot and also became an excuse for him to beat and scold me, my sister, and my mother in the first half of his life. When I was a child, I was probably because of inferiority, or maybe I wanted to please my father. My personality and work style were like a boy, vigorous and resolute. More than 30 years ago, I graduated from a technical secondary school and found a job in the county at first, but later I was laid off. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and start my own business. In those years, I suffered all kinds of hardships. I opened a breeding farm and dealt with chickens, ducks, and geese every day. I also contracted team mountains and ran all over the mountains. Later, I got involved in the medical industry, and now I have opened a Chinese medicine clinic and finally made some money. After I had money, I thought about repaying my family. I built a beautiful country villa for my parents in the countryside so that they can enjoy their old age. I bought a house for my sister in the city so that she can have a stable home. I also sponsored my nephew to study abroad, hoping that he can have a good future. With my own efforts, I have bought real estate in the county, city, and Guangzhou. It should be smooth sailing, but my emotional journey has always been bumpy. My ex-husband was married into my family. He was very cowardly and didn't talk much. I thought that such a person was reliable and easy to control. We had a son and a daughter after marriage, but in the second year after the second child was born, I accidentally found the ironclad evidence of his prostitution and cheating. I have always been decisive in doing things, so I directly asked for the custody of the two children and divorced him. Later, when I was doing medical business, I met the director of a hospital. He was a widowed man, 6 years older than me. We lived together for 2 or 3 years without getting a marriage certificate. I thought I would meet the right person this time, but I didn't expect that I would find out that he was having an affair with a nurse in the hospital. When we broke up, I roughly calculated that I had spent more than 1 million yuan to buy him a house and help him get promoted. I didn't plan to get the money back, but later I saw the chat records between him and that woman. He actually called me selling leftover firewood, washing board, and manly woman, which made me angry. In a rage, I took him to court for a debt dispute and finally got back a large part of the money. After these two failed relationships, I completely lost my extravagant expectations for love, and I devoted myself to raising children and doing business. Life was so dull until 2022, when I met a young man who studied traditional Chinese medicine while running a traditional Chinese medicine clinic business. He is 19 years younger than me, very handsome and well-behaved. He lost his mother when he was a child and grew up with his uncle. His life experience is quite pitiful. We spent a long time together and unknowingly developed feelings. One day, he suddenly confessed his love to me. Since then, he would send me good morning messages every morning and good night messages every night. He also often sent me Chinese medicine, health tea, and health porridge that he made himself. On WeChat, he would also say a lot of warm and sincere words to me, sharing what he saw, heard, and learned every day. I have never been so good to a man in my life. At that moment, I was like a little girl who fell in love for the first time, full of joy. Later, we lived together. During the almost 2 years of cohabitation, he gave me a lot of emotional support and satisfied me physically. I was also sincere to him and spent a lot of money on him. He also told me that he wanted to marry me, saying that his parents were gone and he didn't care about the eyes of outsiders. But I have been hesitating in my heart, mainly for 3 reasons. First, our age gap is too big. I am 45 years old and can no longer have children. Although he said he didn't want children, I know in my heart that which man doesn't want his own flesh and blood, he must still have this idea in his heart. Second, even when our relationship was at its best, I always had a vague feeling in my heart that he would leave me sooner or later and that our relationship would not last long. Third, after all, I had worked hard for so many years on save some money. I also had an adult son and a daughter who was about to become an adult. I had to plan for them. If I remarried, it would mean that the property would be redistributed, and I had to be responsible for the future of the children. He saw my hesitation and proposed a breakup. I told him that I needed time to think about it, but he moved out of anger. Later, I learned that he had met a girl of the same age from his hometown in northern Guangdong through a blind date. I went to question him, but he deliberately talked about how young, well behaved, and obedient the girl was in front of me and said that she admired him very much. He just wanted to use these words to stimulate me. I was really angry at the time. In a moment of impulse, I asked someone to beat him up. As a result, the incident alarmed the police. In the end, the two of us had a very ugly quarrel and parted unhappily. This incident happened not long ago, and now it has become a joke among the girlfriends. When it was late at night and everyone was asleep, I was lying in bed alone, feeling particularly uncomfortable. I asked myself, was it really my intention to hit him? Actually, it wasn't. I was just angry at how he could betray me so easily. Were all the previous warm and caring things he showed me all fake? Sometimes I even wondered if I should let him come back. But when I thought about it carefully, I felt that it was impossible. First, I had to save face. How could I turn back after such a big thing happened? Second, after all, I really couldn't give him the marriage he wanted. He was still young and had a long way to go. My girlfriends all laughed at me, saying that I had money and I could find handsome and strong men everywhere. But I am a traditional person, and asking me to buy sex at a pleasure venue simply violates my values. I would never be able to do such a thing. I'm really confused now. I clearly long for love, so why do I meet scumbags again and again? I am financially independent, so why can't I get rid of my fantasy of love? How can I get to know myself again so that I can get out of this predicament and not make the same mistakes again?